Hi, I'm Chris from Airwindows, and the plugin I have for you this week is called BassKit. And BassKit is the refinement of DubSub in such a way that it does exactly what you want if you're looking to reinforce lows and subsonics. This one's the one that's kind of foolproof. It's made so that it doesn't produce horrible noises, and is kind of polite about how it brings in its stuff. And as you can see, it's really kind of designed to do, it's almost like mastering style in that it's letting through the main sound, and there's no real dry, wet, whatever. The amount that you bring in for dry, wet is this bass inv-out and sub inv-out. And dry would be not having it engaged at all or switching it off, like that. So I suppose you want to hear what it sounds like. So the bass control is kind of like a head bump on ToTape, but voicing lets you reshape it. As you can see, and this is slightly padded, so that going into the distortion is not actually hurting it. In fact, you know something? Let's rearrange that so that what we can do is we're still padded a little bit. And now the padding is forwards of span, so it's a lot down, and okay, that's pretty distorty. Let's drive it back. And again, drive is how hard you hit this algorithm, so you can distort the internal head bumpy style thing. And this works also if you have a high voicing. Deep. Kind of MIDI. You could use that to give a sort of bass cab-like quality to, for instance, a bass track. But then we also have the sub out. Oh, sorry, did I cause an earthquake? My apologies. Sub out is kind of intense. And notice that you've got the inverted range, so middle 0.5 is nothing. Forwards gives you this thunder quality, and backwards subtracts what you're doing. So let's show you a little more of the subsonics again, because you might not have believed what you saw the first time. Now, one thing about that is, unlike DubSub and DubCenter, that's pretty clean of weird, crazy artifacts. It's reconfigured and everything is filtered differently. So the subsonics, and this is pretty loud for subsonics, doesn't bring out all that much in the terms of crunch and weird qualities. It's more or less just reinforcing the thunder factor. And voicing applies a little bit more to bass than it does to the subs. And again, the drive, if we've got the drive cranked up a lot, we're just getting the most out of it. Let's skip over to something else. We're very, maybe not that though. We'll skip over to something which is come on, get smaller, will ya? Something which lacks bass. And while we're at it, let's pad it more. People always complain that the stuff that I'm demonstrating is too loud. I'm kind of like, well, you just want to hear me talk and look at my lovely face. No, I don't think so. I think you'd want to hear what is actually being done. But we'll pad it even further because then we're going to crank out the bass on it again and it'll become loud again. And here we go. So this is kind of low on bass. If we set voicing down here, we can have a very nice smooth bass add. Also note that this is like DubCenter. This has mono bass. So the bass that you add with this, whether it's regular or subsonic, is going to behave properly in big systems and subwoofers and will not be out of phase. That said, let's go on. And we can drive it a little harder or less. It'll compress a little bit if you drive it harder. And now, let's see what we got out of this sub. That click was shutting off the subs. Let's skip forwards to another bit. Getting some strange effects. I bet I know what you'd like to see, though. Not that anybody wants to hear Alien Kittens anymore, but it does have deep bass, and it is a kind of EDM type thing, and I bet you're wondering what BassKit does when given content that is like techno-y, styly music. And let's find out. Remember, this does not do stereo bass, so what we're going to be getting is a reinforcement of only the lows in this very heavily padded with bit shift gain effect. And let's see what we get. I'm using a lower drive so that I can have more dynamics out of it rather than just overloading it, but we might try doing that too. Bypassing it, deepening it. Now that's some serious lows. Note that I can do this two ways. I can either pull back the output, or I can pull back the drive, which is on the input, causing the dynamic range of the algorithm to be greater and letting it do a bigger subsonic swing here. I'll demonstrate that again by doing voicing down here. And then with this guy, you can have a more contained sound, or a more punchy dynamic sound, because it'll happen differently each way. If you have it with very low drive, the sort of meat of the bass is going to have more swing. If you have it with very high drive and pad the output down, what you'll get is a sort of saturated, dense, continuous bass sound, kind of like this. And you can find the areas where it resonates using voicing, or rearrange the areas where it resonates. Doing this kind of work, I think you're going to need to have working subwoofers, though. Like some of this stuff, well, let me demonstrate. Here's what you can get when you're using the subs on this kind of thing. Watch your bass pins. Okay, I'm going to stop that because I'm probably going to break some people's bass pins with that kind of nonsense. Note what it was doing. I've got an octave divider effect going on here. The bass is reinforcing down with the voicing, and that was already capable of producing a lot of kind of sustained drive, and with low drive settings, it's all punch. With extremely high drive settings, it starts to compress and become this continuous like. Then when I throw the sub in there at very high output levels, I'm getting what? Let me find out. So that's a lot. Okay, so Berlin techno folks, this is your toy. This is your happy place. Because what we're doing is reinforcing the bass for that intense sort of punch and kick and rumble, and then the sub-octave thing is just making that go berserk. And I do honestly hope I didn't just kill anybody's bass bins with that stuff, because the amount of vibration going on in there is pretty intense and pretty continuous. But I mean, if you are a Berlin techno guy, you're doing this on purpose, and it's probably fine with you. I hope. So let's just go back and do some more of it again. There's another voicing. But we love the deepness. Just get a load of how the kick drum and the rumble changes every time you move this. Okay, need to stop enjoying this way too much. If you're listening over a laptop or earbuds, you probably have no idea. Just no idea what's going on, but you can see it in the chart anyway. And yeah, this is a very dangerous little toy. I hope you have lots and lots of fun with it. And you can set it on the output, you can set it on your bus, your mix bus, because it's designed to have a very clean pass-through of the dry, and it just brings this other stuff in that you're using, like with the bass and sub, invert, and out. And I'm not sure if I would recommend doing everything with all of this stuff cranked all the way up. I'm just showing you the insanity of how far you can push it, and it's designed to not be too exaggerated. So in order to push it, you kind of have to crank everything up all the way. But it's not really about that. It's about being able to controllably get exactly the right kind of rumble that you'd want. And for such normal and useful purposes, I strongly recommend this over DubSub, over DubCenter, because those are kind of, that's where I took this stuff when I was kind of refining and developing it, but having learned more about how these things work, I can bring out something like BassKit, which is, it just does what you want. Like the drive is pretty easily understandable. That's how compressed everything is going to get. Voicing, you can hear that pretty plainly. You just turn bass up a lot, get the voicing right, and then bring it into taste. They are more logarithmic in control, so middle range settings are all going to be pretty reasonable. And then if you just want to go complete Berlin techno bonkers, then by all means crank everything out. And because it has that kind of compressed quality, it's going to behave itself fairly well even on your output bus. Watch it for whether you're clipping and overloading, because if you have the controls set so that they're not really going to clip and overload, it's not likely to suddenly hit a peak where it does. It's got that compressed quality about it, and of course it's all in mono, much like DubCenter. So it's not going to be needlessly blowing out your bass bins by having them push-pull. The raw signal is fully stereo. The bass in the raw signal is still fully stereo, but this reinforcement stuff is all dead straight up mono. And I gotta say, I'm really happy with this one. Like, I could easily see there being somebody out there who's like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna throw another $50 per year on this guy's Patreon because this one is indispensable to me now, and everything that I do has to use it from now on and forever and ever and ever. Because, yeah, it's BassKit, and, well, you heard it. I had a lot of fun putting it together. I had a lot of fun arranging it in such a way that the controls do what you want. Like, you get to know what they do, and then you don't really have to guess very much. You're just like, okay, this goes here, this is as loud as I want it, this is as loud as I want this, and so on and so forth. And you're pretty much done. It's not fiddly. But for a not fiddly plugin, it does have a certain monstrosity about it. And I don't know, I guess my ambition here is I hope someday I go out to a club and get to hear like some crazy Berlin techno madness. Oh God, what's that? The old Tresor Club in Berlin. I've watched a wonderful documentary about that, and you can't have that because a bunch of fervent capitalists destroyed the Tresor Club and put up office blocks that nobody wanted on top of it because money, I guess. Well, so I can't. This can't be heard in the original Tresor Club because that is gone. But if people like that kind of thing, that should help you do it. And nothing would make me happier. So yeah, I'm hoping that people can throw this into their crazy techno madness, crank up those subs, and enjoy this rumble. Voice it nicely, because as you heard, the amount of variations you can get on the rumble out of this is quite staggering. And, I would like to have my butt vibrated in some club someday by somebody who's using this tool that I gave them. And to all of you, but then especially to that person who is filled with glee at discovering this and is going to do wonderful, terrible, terrifying things with it, I thank you.